Hi everyone, Mature Simmer here. So I'm going to take you along on a run. I did run this once before, well actually twice. That's part of why I did it, because I think you've had enough fun of me learning and being a complete buffoon in the Academy videos that were posted earlier. So I wanted to at least have some semblance of understanding what to do. So I did run the scenario that I'm going to do here once before, but for future ones I'll probably just give them a shot and see what I can do as we go. And if I just completely bumble them every time the first time, maybe I'll just make videos the second or third time. But at this point we're using the Hudson Line and we're running a passenger train. Alright, so I'm going to be the engineer on the Amtrak 283. You can see we're an express run to Croton-Harmon. We're here. We've got to open the doors, let people on, so let's do that, because otherwise I think the time doesn't start ticking until I get out of that. I've also found I can see where things are at if I do that. So we'll pull this up so we see what we need to do. We have two stops. We're going to stop at Yonkers at 1344 and Croton-Harmon at 1403. We're going to then hand control over to another engineer who will take the train for the next leg of the journey. So you can see in about a minute and a half here, we're going to be heading out of the station. And then obviously it's my job as the engineer to keep the train on time and do the best job I can. So, I've run this scenario 2 times before I got on here to take you through this with me, and we'll see how I do. My goal is to try to keep this 1,000 points. I did 988, so I only had 12 points of penalty before. The biggest challenge is, especially heading out of New York, just with the changing speeds and so forth, to make sure that I'm not speeding. I've discovered that if you push the brake up too far, you get an emergency brake. An emergency brake issue, that you'll lose some points for going that far, so I've got to be careful that I don't apply the brake too quickly. So I'm waiting out here so I can see the doors close, which should happen. There we go. So we can now begin to head out. So the reason I had to start the other scenario over and didn't just play it once before this is there's just a lot of things I didn't know. Like, it never really explained that the speed limit is here. So that 15 is my speed limit. So, and the signal from the Academy that we learned, the top one tells me straight is good, but I can't change. I assume these are all automatic switches. I don't have to manually switch them, which I suppose that would make it really interesting. And obviously something that an engineer in a train is not normally doing. But because I didn't know the speed was there, I got a bunch of speeding penalties, and then I couldn't gauge how quickly to slow down, and so I didn't slow down fast enough, and before I knew it I was pretty flustered, and I put on my emergency brake to the point, like I hit that hand, which I think just applies it and then doesn't let go, and I couldn't start the train again, so hence I needed to start over. So I think I know how to avoid doing that. The way you avoid doing that is don't put on the emergency brake to the point where you're stopped, or just stay away from that wonderful hand sign. I'm also going to turn off this cab signaling thing because somehow the Q key that was supposed to work doesn't, and so the brakes kept getting applied, which was really not fun. Now there's a bit of an incline, well, more than a bit of an incline out of the station here that I found, so I'm going to apply a good amount of throttle. You can see we're finally starting to speed up. Down here in the, I don't know, we'll call it the mini map for this game. These are the end of the tunnel, that's the start of a tunnel, that's the speed limit on the segment. So I'm going to go from 15 to 25 when I get there. Just got to be careful here that I don't overshoot my 15 because it's very accurate. You know, I can go over a few tenths, but I don't know exactly when it starts penalizing you. But I think if I was even going a mile over, it's going to tell me I'm speeding. And I think some of that is simply because, you know, some of the speeds are safety related. Like if the, you know, the curve is tight and you go around too fast, this is how trains would derail. So we certainly don't want to do that. I already did that in the academy when I was coupling trains too hard. The other thing you'll notice, like my locomotive is past here, and I'm still at 15. The entire train usually needs to get past this speed before you're then given the ability to actually go at the speed that is given there. So once again, I think our signal is green, if I read that accurately. Alright, so that should change soon. There we go. So I'm going to hit the throttle a little bit more because we're starting to drift. We were under 1340, and already with my cautious driving, I've already lost 30 seconds, and I'm pretty cautious when I pull into the train stations. So I've also noticed that the time creeps up a bit when we get there, so I definitely... Almost. That was almost bad. I've got to pay attention. I'm confused. What am I seeing there? Am I gonna hit something? Wow, that was just a weird visual. I don't know that I've seen that before. Okay, I'm up to 35 now. So once again, I don't want to be going too slow because my ETA is going to creep up otherwise. But I have to be careful that I don't exceed the speeds. And again, I'm going to drop to 25, as you can see with what's coming up. So I'm going to have to slow down again for a segment. So this is the area that, you know, tends to be challenging to not have some problems in. Because obviously, you know, you kind of want to keep the train moving at the speed that you're able to go, but you've got to be careful to give yourself enough room to brake. So I apologize if I kind of stop talking for a while as I get close. It's just I don't want to overshoot, because that's something I seem to be mentally challenged with, because I forget it's not a car that I can like immediately slow down. I've got to give it some space, and once again, we're not going that fast, but I still need to be careful. So just to be sure, I'm going to go ahead and apply the brake. There we go. Graduated self-lap limited. So you can see, you know, we're slowing down, and again, not to slam on the brakes too much. You know, I just try to be careful. And we've just got, and again, this one I would imagine is the safety of this curve is why we have to go to 25. because this does look like a pretty tight curve. And then I think we're gonna then be able to go to 60 pretty quickly once we straighten out here. So I'm just gonna get on the throttle a bit, move myself along. There we go, now we're at 60. So now we'll be able to open ourselves up a bit here and really start moving along. So the game itself, you know, is interesting. It's not as involved as Farming Simulator, certainly, with the amount of tasks, at least so far, and I understand I'm just doing passenger rail right now, so what am I expecting, right? You know, so the game may prove more challenging and interesting to me in that regard. But I would say, like, if I'm just running passenger service, you know, there's a limited interest that I would have in doing a lot of time in this game. You know, getting 2,000 hours in this game running passenger trains, probably not going to happen. You know, and it's one of the reasons that, you know, I was able to get this thing for, you know, less than $20 with a bunch of added routes and so forth. And the routes sometimes cost $35 for one route if you pay full price. And again, it'd be unfair to say, you know, a whole lot at this point. I mean, I've experienced the game for a matter of a couple hours at this point, you know, and honestly, most of that was within the academy. You know, I've spent 40 minutes, which is how long this run is, and therefore about how long this video will be. You know, but I've spent 40 minutes in running the trains. You know, here comes an oncoming train. So we're gonna have our first pass. Oh, it won't let me change. Interesting. It won't let me change my camera view. I wonder if that's because I'm inside a tunnel. I can't put the camera on the outside without basically like being in the ceiling. Alright, so I need to be careful here because it's 55, and this is where once again I started losing points here and there. I'm trying really, really hard to see if I hit 1,000. I'm sure that's a separate achievement. I already got an achievement for a high, you know, being above 950, which was great, but I'm one of those completionist people that, hey, if I can earn an achievement, I would love to earn it. Now, I will say, I'm likely never going to get all the achievements in Train Simulator because there are 1,339 of them. And no, I didn't misspeak. There are 1,339 achievements. You know, as opposed to, I think, you know, Farming Simulator has like 70, and I think, you know, the truck simulators have 50. So yeah. I'm guessing that may be everything that's possible, including like if you bought all the DLC, all the routes and so forth, and obviously I'm not going to be doing that. Is it $35 a route? That adds up pretty quickly. Alright, so what I've found, because it keeps flipping and flopping, maybe a real engineer, I'm certainly not one of those, speeds up, slows down, just to truly maximize things, but I'm just going to kind of keep it at 55 because, again, in a mile and a half or so, we're going to have to slow to 50. So I just don't want to lose points just because I gain a few seconds here and there, so I'm actually going to put myself on coasting because I'm getting a little too close to 55, and we're getting into that span. It looks like probably as we go under this bridge is my guess, and then once we clear that bridge we can go back to 60 again. But anyway, I'll put the throttle back up to 6%. And then, you know, if we speed up a little bit or creep up, now we have the ability to do that. But I've got to pay attention to that 50 so that I don't blow into that and have a problem. Although right now we're slowing down even with the throttle on a bit, so we must be going up a slight incline. So now that we're outside, you know, what I don't know is how accurately modeled these routes are. I mean, obviously, you know, trees are trees and this and that, but, you know, do they follow the exact route? Is a lot of the scenery the same? I mean, this looks like, I think, one of the bridges in New York. I'm not from that area. I don't know the bridges by sight. I'm sure someone from there would tell me, you know, it's such and such bridge. And again, I've got to be careful here so that I don't speed. I almost blew it, but luckily I paid attention, because that's where I've messed up a few times before. And so once again, yeah, it looks like there's just, for safety, although there is a curve here, so maybe we're slowing down for the curve. I don't know, but it's slowing us down for some reason. Let me see if I go to 6. Are we still slowing down, or so then I go to 60, but then I drop to 45. So as you can see, it's a bit of a challenge, and so we spend a lot of the trip now kind of going along the river, which makes sense because, you know, if you've seen train tracks, that's kind of usually what they do. So yeah, now if I hit the 2 key that I tried to do in the tunnel, I'm able to. So I will speed up a bit once I can, just because again I'm now creeping up close to 1341, so I don't want to be losing too much time. But again, it looks, you know, once we get past this next slow point, I'll be able to go up to 75 in about 1.5 miles, so that's not too bad. Alright, so I want to be careful again not to overshoot, but I want to obviously not slow down way early, because I'm still over 1/2 mile away, and I only need to slow down 10 miles, so I'll let myself get a little closer, maybe 1/3 mile, 1/4 mile. Probably start slowing down at 1/3 mile just to be safe. So let me apply the brake there. See, even that isn't quite enough, so let me get myself down within spitting distance. There we go. So we're good, but then again we go 75 for a moment, and then we drop to 45, 7, you know, so hence the life of a train, I guess. That's how it works. But so I think this was the segment that I started kind of panicking in, because I was speeding up and then I didn't know how to slow down, and then I slammed on my emergency brake and all was lost. So let me put my, I can't really, the throttle won't stay at less than 6%. I'm sure that probably makes sense, because I'm sure on these they kind of click in at certain points. But yeah, once I'm able to get moving, you know, really moving, which I think is this last segment there. So I think I'm just gonna not press my luck. It's only half a mile till I get there, so I'm just gonna stay under 45, and you know, I'll speed up when I can. You know, we're at 13:41 now. We're supposed to be there at 13:44. I believe this moves me over to the third set of tracks to continue on, because I think this then just stays as a 4-track system the rest of the way. And so this is again why it's clearly 45 through there, because we're changing tracks and we couldn't make that at high speed. But now that we're where we need to be, now we can open things up a little bit, speed up, and then once I know I'm getting some forward motion, I'll open the throttle up full and get ourselves up to that cruising speed. So, but we're only 3 miles away from Yonkers, so that's the other thing I need to keep in mind, is I'm gonna have to stop this train. So just about the time I'm starting to move, it'll be time to throttle down. But at this point, as you can see, the ETA is still going up. So if I don't speed up, you know, I definitely run the risk of being late into Yonkers, and I'm sure there's a penalty for that. So 2.5 miles. I think about a mile out is kind of when I made sure I wasn't like accelerating anymore. You know, I'm gonna be up there pretty close where I'm gonna have to back off anyway, because otherwise I'm gonna be speeding. Oh, and there we go. We're gonna have to drop down to 50. Again, I've only run this scenario once, so I didn't remember that. But I'm gonna turn the throttle off at that point and coast, because I'm going, you know, I gotta slow down 23 miles, and again, I don't want to be throwing my brakes on super hard. See, that's probably released, so I think, yeah. Right. So let's see. 59, we've got 3/4 of a mile to go. It's probably okay. You know, the challenge is, again, I think our ETA is going to creep up here. And I don't remember. Oh, it's because we are pulling into the platform, so yeah, I'm going to want to be slowing down anyway, because I need to stop. Alright, so 1/4 mile from the 50-mile-an-hour limit. And we're 1/2 mile from the platform itself. So probably want to start slowing down anyway, because now we're even closer. There we go. Alright, coming in pretty hot. I need to be careful here. But we've got 0.17 miles, and yeah, I think we're doing okay. So let's see. So I've got to go 0.13 miles, and this was the challenge I had before, is you got to get far enough, because again, don't forget, this train has some length. creep over here. I just gotta be careful that I don't, obviously I don't want to overshoot. I think at this point, this should be good enough. So there we go. Got ourselves stopped. And then I think if I bring up my task list, I can open the door. We can pick up passengers. And then at this point, you know, I was a couple minutes early. There we go. So I think just make sure, yep, my doors are closed, so we've picked people up. And so I can release the brake, hide that away. And again, a gradual start. Because I'm sure, again, if I go too fast and I spin the wheels, I'm sure there's all kinds of ways I can lose points. So, I've done my first stop. Still a perfect score. Knock on wood. So we've got to be there at 14:03. Right now we've got a little bit of time to spare. I'm going to throttle up a little bit more, because I'm sure that will change very quickly if I don't get moving, because this is a 75-mile-an-hour track and we're just going 20 on it. But I'm imagining they expect that because they expected me to stop, so that's why the ETA isn't going crazy. But I'm sure there's some rate of acceleration it's expecting me to follow. So yeah, at this point we just need to pay attention to signals to make sure nothing surprises us there. And obviously speed, but you know, we've got 17 miles, so I'm going to open the throttle up here to get this train going, because the ETA is creeping up. So obviously it was expecting me to be accelerating a little faster than I am. So we'll see, we got a signal coming up in a quarter mile. So I just want to make sure everything looks good, because obviously now we're moving at a good clip. I thought that was a signal, but I didn't see a signal. I don't know if somehow I missed it. Alright, so I just need to make sure that I don't accelerate too fast. So we've only added 7 seconds to our ETA, but you know, it has added some time, so I want to get close to 75. But it's not like I have to be right up there. And, you know, even at full throttle, this thing is obviously taking some time to speed up here. It's not like it's flying along. Alright, so I'm going to drop that down. Let's see if I can find a pace that maintains the speed. So that's kind of the trick, is setting the throttle. So this was the area when I had the alerting system on that it just kept going off, and I could not, while I was hitting the Q key as it explained in the academy, it wasn't working. And so then the brake kept deploying, and aside from it being annoying, it just was like I was worried I would be in danger of not making it. I still made it, but it required far too much work. So in the interim, I did look up how to change that. Alright, we are slowing down, so let me see. If I go to 11%, the signals were green, so we're okay there. Okay, we're still slowing down a bit. So make sure. Okay, those are signals facing the other way. Okay, so 17%. Let's see what that does. Alright, that's slowly speeding me up, I think. So we'll leave it here. some point we're going to have to slow down, but and once again, there's no point in tempting fate and being too close to that. I've got, you know, a little over 3 minutes to spare, so I should be okay. So it went up another second, so I mean, it is expecting me to be a little closer to 75, but so 13 miles, so we've made 4 miles since we left Yonkers. Right now, not seeing anything other than the track and signals. So there you go. We've got our view out of here, moving along the river. You know, relatively low. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 cars, so not a massive train, but probably a typical commuter type train, or an express train, because once again, you know, we're just going by all these platforms where I'm sure there's runs I can do that would have me running that route and stopping at every one. Yeah, it definitely becomes, you know, a little bit easier, and I'll go ahead just to see. I'll turn on my ATC again and see, and if I can't turn it off, I'll just immediately turn it on. I don't remember coming up a long one before last time. That's interesting, but I'm assuming if the ATC comes on, it's going to be at that signal spot there. Alright, so we're up at 73. I definitely want to be careful that I'm not running too close. I think at 73.5 I'll throttle down a bit. Got my hand on the indicator in case. Okay, so now I hit Q, it was okay, and maybe it'll work, so we'll see. So the only thing I can think of is when I played it the last time, I was on 32-bit instead of a 64-bit is what I had started up. Alright, we've got to go to 70, so I'm gonna turn off my throttle and coast, and then as we get closer, so yeah, it's possible the 32-bit, like the response time on the keys was slower or something, I don't know. So at this point it does work with the Q key, so we'll see. Alright, and it didn't go off there, so kind of interesting. Alright, my speed's good. I'm ready for that next segment. So I'll go back up to 6%, which I think was still sloughing off some speed, but at least it won't be sloughing off as much. Let's see. About 11. I think that still loses a bit. And so it looks like, no, I don't know if it's going under the bridge that it's slowing us down or not, but right, we're still under 1400. Now we're less than 10 miles out. Right, our signal is green. We're under 70 as we change speed there, so we're good. It's pretty loud when you go through those switches, but I've ridden on trains and passenger trains, and It is that loud. Well, the Q key is working now, so I will leave that on for some added realism to make me operate my train appropriately. But what was happening when I was trying that before was I would hit Q and it would like literally come on and immediately after, and then I started like looking around the cab for the button, which I found, but basically unless I held the button it just immediately started beeping again, so I had to find a way to turn it off because it, like I said, it kept activating my brake, and that was not what I wanted. So yeah, this is clearly a rail yard of some sort. So I'm sure if we were hauling freight, we might get routed around different places. Alright, so I'm going to throttle up a little bit more so I can gain a bit of speed, and once again I don't want to slough off too much. We'll see how that goes. Under 7 miles. And this does come pretty quickly, surprisingly. I was amazed when I was on this, and some of it may just be because you're just in a train and lolling along, and before you know it, the miles are gone. So, yeah, it's either 11 or 17. There's no medium. So I can go to 11, but then I think it'll slow back down. But I don't want to speed. I'm so close to maybe finishing with 1,000 and seeing if I get an achievement for that. Because yeah, I mean, for each of the academy classes it gave me an achievement, as you saw. So, you know, I think I got 39 running through the whole academy, and then I got another one for scoring above 950 on this run, and so I'm assuming there's achievements for every provided scenario possible, plus, you know, other things, because, you know, you can do free roam, you can do other things in this game, and you know, again, over time, maybe I'll explore those. Yeah, it's certainly more than 60 seconds, so it's not that kind of alarm. I'm not quite sure what it's coming on, or maybe because it's an express train, it just has a longer timer than the minute. Because I would imagine, although I guess they want you there at the controls, so they would do it, but I'm like, you know, if you're doing a freight haul and you're going cross country, I mean, if you really have to hit that button every minute, that would be difficult to maintain. Alright, so we're 4 miles away. Just need to not get too much into the zone of just rocking along in my train and I forget that I need to stop and let people off. Alright, so we'll got a 75 mile an hour zone coming up in a bit, but I don't know that I'm going to speed up. I probably will a little bit, but I mean, at this point I am speeding up, and so I may be at 70 by the time I get to the 75, or I may have to back off the throttle because it is going up relatively quickly. So let me see, it was 13:56 and 22 seconds, so let's see when that goes off again. I swear it's longer than a minute, but maybe it's not. Maybe it is a minute, and a minute's taking longer than I think it should in this game. I don't know. I don't know if that's a prison or what that we went back there, but it's like it has like towers. They seem like guard towers, but alright, so we're 2.5 miles out. We're in danger of going too fast, so I'm gonna back off here. Because again, the last thing I'd want to do is lose a few points. Just because. So now we're at 75, and then we've got to be down to 50. And that's probably because at that point we're nearly on top of the platform. So I'm going to have to start slowing soon. See, now it's doing it again. Disabled. Q. Alright. And that's what it was doing, was exactly what you saw, which I couldn't control it. I didn't understand why, and maybe it's telling me that I need to really start slowing down at that point. I don't know. I've got to do some research on exactly what that was telling me. Alright, so at this point I'm going to start slowing because again that 50 is going to be on top of us before we know it. We are at over 14 on our arrival, but below 50, but then we're very quickly going to have to be stopped, so. Because we're only half a mile out, so I better start slowing this train. 30. I think this will work. Because once again, you know, the amount of distance I'm going to cover as I slow also obviously slows down, so. So yeah, at this point, you know, 14.5 miles. We've got 0.2 miles to go. So we'll drift into the platform. That man is walking in circles, literally. Alright, again, I don't want to overshoot. So I think, yeah, I believe I'm on the platform, so I think if I stop here, I'll be okay. So let me go to my task log, let the passengers off, and that should do it. And I think that I'm okay. There we go. We have a crew change here before the train continues north. Go and have a nice rest. So, got 1,000. Oh, okay, so all it did is give me the 12 that I didn't have. Now, I've never had a ranking come up, so I don't know how that works, but I didn't get a new achievement, so I guess that's it. But basically, this is the scenario, so that's what we just did. So this is the line we're on, the Hudson Line. I do have Marius Pass. That was on sale for $5, and I wanted something in the mountains, so but everything else that I have came with the package that I got. So Birmingham, Cross City, Frankfurt, Koblenz, Hudson, and then Washington to Baltimore. So I'll be looking at some of those others in the future. Obviously, some of these longer ones that take a bit, we'll get to them, but I'm going to stick with some of the easier ones to begin with and just, get my feet wet and, learn the game. And as I get better, we'll work on things and we'll explore together. So if you're interested in this, please come along, subscribe, like the videos, and of course provide feedback. Love to hear your comments and so forth. So hope you've enjoyed this, and I will see you next time.